Hi, I'm Rebecca from paperprimrose.com and I'm here today with a project for Splitcoaststampers. I'm presenting two decorative lanterns that are operated with little battery-powered flickering lights. And you can get these at drugstores, big box stores, and I bought a lifetime supply for under $10 at Costco. They flicker like a candle, and once they're inside and the light is turned on, they really look as though there's a flame inside. This is another decorative cover that I made for the battery-operated votive, and this one has a winter theme. It has crystals, some pearls, a bow made out of hand-dyed seam binding, and this will have a link below the video along with the autumn version to take you to those sites. Both sites have a place you can click and get the template to print out for your own use. We're going to start now with the actual project. When you print it out, you'll have two pages. One will be some directions and the lid, and the second page will be a template for the base. And there are three different ways you can use these. You can print them onto cardstock directly. You can print them on cardstock and intend to use the back side as your face so that the lines completely disappear. The other way that you can use them is to print them out onto regular thin copier paper. The third way that you can use this is to take the template that's printed on copier paper, turn it over, and because it's thin paper, you'll still be able to see a shadow of the lines underneath on the back side. Take a removable adhesive. It can be a tape runner, it can be a tiny bit of rubber cement, any removable adhesive will do. Place a touch of it on each of the four panels, and as you can see, it's really just a touch, and a touch on the base. Then what you can do is take a patterned paper or a solid color, orient it the way you want it, and stick it down. This will hold it so that now you can cut everything out on your patterned paper or your colored cardstock, and then you will be able to gently remove your template and you will have this cut out ready to use. For our purposes, I'm going to work with white cardstock so that you can see what I'm doing. There are directions at the top of the first page when you print it out, but we're going to go through it in a little more detail. What you're going to do first is you're going to cut the solid lines all the way around the edge. The dashed lines are going to be the fold lines. I've started to cut this one out, and I've left the end of it so that you can see what happens. I'm going to finish cutting along the solid lines so I can discard the outer paper. Cut up to that point, and now when you make this final cut, come from the other direction and cut that solid line all the way to that center point where all the lines meet. You need to have that little flap open there. This is the tab that's going to be used to close the lid. The next thing that happens is we have to score these dashed lines. There are a few ways that you can do it. One way would be to take a mouse pad or a foam mat of some sort. Take a straight-edged ruler and a stylus. And stylus come in different sizes and shapes. I'm looking for the one I want to use. I think I've moved it. Ah, here we go. It's a tool that has a little ball at the end, and as you can see, a tiny ball, a fairly small ball, but not so tiny. I want to use this one. The very small ends of stylus will generally break through the paper. And you're going to line your straight edge up with the dashed line, and you're going to run your stylus along it. It will make an indentation, and the paper wants to bend along that indentation. The other way that you can score your lines is with a board. And it doesn't matter which company's board you use, all of them will achieve the same end. What I do here is, you can see there's a black line. I did mine at my 6-inch mark. And you can line the point of one of these dashed lines up with that black line. And you have a little flap here that came up. You can peek underneath. Whoops. And you can line up the end of that dashed line with the black line. And then you can take your stylus and run it along that dashed line right to the center, and that'll achieve the same thing. So if you don't have a board, you can use a mouse pad or a foam mat and a stylus. Most of these scoring boards come with a little tool like this. These work just fine, but I also keep a stylus in mind because I think the stylus works a little bit better. And you're going to do this to each one of the dashed lines. And then you've got a dashed line for the tab. Line it up, hold it in place, and score it. You'll notice I didn't start at this end and come down. I went onto the paper, scored it going away from the point, and then scored it going towards the center. If you try to run your stylus this way, very often you'll catch the paper, bunch it up, and you'll have to start over again. It doesn't look too nice that way. So now we have all of these dashed lines scored. If you wanted to use the reverse side as your outside, you still can. I'm going to get that out of the way. And now, for our purposes, I'm going to use the printed side that came out of the printer as our right side, so you can see what I'm doing. I prefer to use score tape for this project. You can line these up and really mass produce them. They're lovely scattered around your home during holiday times. They're great little gifts. You can put a basket of them together and present them as a hostess gift if you're invited out. They just are lovely. They'd be great for a special occasion, on the tables at a wedding, a shower, whatever you can think of. Normally I would use 1/4 inch double-sided tape, but I'm out of 1/4 inch, so I'm doubling up on my 1/8 inch. And I've applied it, press it down, and then you're going to pick up your backing, and we're ready to go. I'm going to go along each one of these dashed lines and make a fold. And I have to do that for the tab as well. That's why we scored it. All you have to do is close that up, line it along the edge, press it inside, and you have a lid that's ready to go. That's one part. This is ready to be decorated. It actually looks a little industrial and would be kind of funky if you wanted to do black and white with the dotted lines on it. Not my speed, but a possibility. So that's the first part. The second part for the base. And by the way, they don't have to be made out of the same color, so consider using 2 different papers, or perhaps using scraps for this project. I cut it out, again, all but the last cut, because I wanted to show you this again. This is the part where most people get hung up and they say, well, this doesn't work. It doesn't work if you don't cut this line all the way down to the square that's in the center. It has to go all the way down. So we're going to cut to this line, keep going, cut to the spot where those lines meet. And the same was done here, and here, and here. Now, I put ovals into this template, but you're not limited to this. You could have any shape, any cutout that you'd like. I can't see the purpose of doing it without a cutout. You need a place for the light to come through, but it could be a rectangle. It could be the shape of a character. Anything you can dream of. Okay, back with the template, a base template. It has its openings prepared. The next step is to score these tab lines, and in this instance, the base is also going to be scored. I forgot actually when I was doing the template to place dashed lines there, but you'll know that that's necessary because you're going to want to fold it. So lift up on your tab, place it along the black line, lift up the opposite side, place that end along the back line, and then you're good to score along that base line. I have got too thick a stylus, so I'm going to grab the stylus that I like for this cardstock. It's a smaller ball. It makes a better line, which makes a better crease. Let's see, I've done that one, that one. Sometimes you just have to run your finger over it to see what you've scored. Now that that's all been cut and scored, both the tab lines and along the base line, because you're going to need to fold that up, the next step is to decide whether you want tissue paper in your windows. For the winter version, I took white tissue paper that was used as wrapping in some packaging that I received. I saved a few sheets of it. It looked like it would come in handy, and sure enough it did. And I used some alcohol ink markers to give it a pale blue color. The only thing I would say about using markers is you sometimes will get a little bit of streaking, but it's really quite lovely. For the autumn piece, I used some gold, or in this case it's really a yellow tissue paper that I had on hand, and I had just enough to place inside. So that's the next step for this. Now I have some pale blue. It's a beautiful robin's egg blue tissue paper. This also came in some craft supplies that I received, so I saved it. I'm glad I did. All right, what you can do is place it over your opening, and remember you're going to need a margin around the opening so that you can tape it in place. Don't cut it really close, but you also don't want the tissue paper to show out the top of the lantern. So give yourself some really rough pencil marks to follow. And what you can do then, after you've got your marks, is just accordion fold your paper and cut them all out at once. I'm going to take my wavy lines and turn them into straight lines, and these are just there to guide me. Oops. There we go. You can glue these into place. Again, we're going to pretend that this is our outside. I'm going to flip it over, and now it's time to adhere each one of these over the opening. You can use a quick drying paper glue, and for that purpose my favorite one is this quick dry adhesive. It's really very good, but I want to go even faster than that, and I don't want to risk any wrinkling at all. So what I'm going to do is take score tape and run it at the top, bottom, and sides of my opening. And you can, when you're doing a few of these at a time, you'll get quite fast at this. It really takes no time at all. Press down on your tape, and if you have trouble removing the backing tape, it's probably because the tape needs to be pressed down first. Because even with my very short nails, it really doesn't present a problem getting it off. And then you're just going to make sure that you're covering the opening. Don't worry if any of the tape shows through, because that's going to be on the inside. You're going to do that to all 4 of your openings. When all of your windows are in place, the next step is to close it up with your tabs. What I like to do is to first go along all my score lines and give a gentle fold and reopen them again. Now it's time to use some double-sided tape along each of your tabs. Again, 1/4 inch would be preferable, but 1/8 inch will do. And now it just remains for you to bring these up, match your edges, and press it into place. You're going to do that to all 4 corners. Then the fun begins, because now it's time to decorate. Think about the feeling that you want to elicit with this little lantern. Is it going to be something romantic for a holiday, for birthday, spring, summer, winter? Okay, you take a look here, you'll see that my edges did not meet. What that tells me is when I was scoring the base, I wasn't exactly on my line. It really isn't a problem. This little scissor is going to come in really handy, and all you need to do is straighten out those edges. I will say when I was doing a bunch of them, They all really turned out beautifully. I didn't have to do this. But then again, I wasn't thinking about the camera. Okay, so there's the base, and here is the lid, and it just sits on top. So now it's time to have fun, go a bit mad, play with your decorations. These are just a few ideas for you. A winter scene, an autumn scene, and this one isn't from this year, but it's coming out now because it's October. So I'll find a little tabletop with a display to add this to. This one even has a little feather, some fake berries, fabric leaves, some little velvet hydrangea leaves, and a burlap bow that I made. Also some little half pearls that are decorated with alcohol ink to make them look like berries. There's a little rhinestone underneath with a tiny pearl on top. So really it's very whimsical. It's whatever you'd like to play with. I hope you have a lot of fun doing this, and I would love to see your designs. So please, you can contact me through my website. The website will be listed below along with the posting sites where you can get the template and you can see these in better detail. And have fun with it. Thanks for stopping by. Rather than hand cutting the entire template, if you'd like, you can take it to your cutter, whatever style you use, and you can cut the outside edges, these straight edges, and that'll give you a running start to getting the rest of the template ready to go. The other thing I didn't mention is that I printed this template out without adjusting the size. So this is 100% of the original size. If you decide you'd like a larger or a smaller little container, you can adjust the percentage on your printer before going ahead. And you can make them really any size that your paper will allow. So now that I've used my paper cutter to cut the outside edges, now I'm going to go back and use my scissor to cut the insides. I'm going to be showing you one of the ways to cut out the ovals that I had on the two that I showed you earlier. I'm using the third oval in Spellbinder's small oval set. It fit this the best, but I will tell you this doesn't fit into a big shot. So when I was making the two that you first saw, I did cut these ovals by hand. That's an option. You don't have to have a die cutter. It's just a quick version. And if you're cutting this out, you're going to have to eyeball the center of it. You can tape it in place if you like. For our purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. If it's not exactly on the lines, that really doesn't matter. You can always flip the paper over and use the other side as your right side. I'm going to run it through. And that cracking that you hear when you die cut is not a problem. That's normal. You can pop your oval out, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to die cut the next three. Just eyeball them, center them on those shapes, those trapezoids, and cut all four of them out. You could even do 4 different shapes if you wanted to, entirely up to you. The tools that you'll need for this project consist of pages 1 and 2 of the template, some tissue paper, either white or any color that you choose, a pair of scissors for cutting out your template. You're also going to need a scoreboard. Any brand will do. I have a black line drawn down the middle of mine at the 6-inch mark, just to help me align the points that I'm going to be scoring. You'll also need some double-sided, very strong sticky tape, and if you're going to be cutting the holes out for the light to shine through by hand, I strongly suggest a craft knife with a new blade. I also prefer a stylus to the tool that comes with the score tool. The optional tools would consist of a die cutting machine that has the capacity to cut something wider than 7.5 inches wide. My Big Shot or Cuttlebug don't accept that width, so in this case it's a grand caliber, but there are other die cutting machines that will do just as well. Also, I used an optional die, the oval, to cut out the holes. I used the third size in Spellbinder's small ovals set. But you can improvise, you can use other shapes and sizes.